Hello and welcome everyone to the Ontario Caregiver Organization's webinar series. These webinars bring together caregivers and subject matter experts to explore topics most important to caregivers. We do this to support and engage chosen family, friends, and neighbors who are caring for someone. I'm Felicia Hart, a caregiver as well as manager of caregiver navigation and workplace programs at the Ontario Caregiver Organization. I will be one of your hosts today. We begin today's gathering by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. While we meet on a virtual platform with people joining us from across the province, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land which we all call home. I am coming to you from Clarington, Ontario, which is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa of the Anishinaabe, known today as the Williams Treaties First Nations. I came to be here through generations of immigration to this land. At the Ontario Caregiver Organization, we are working to better understand how we can be meaningful allies and support the recommendations from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. We invite you to take a moment to reflect on the land where you are. And if you are not familiar with that, we are happy to provide an interactive map in the chat that tells you which traditional territory your city or town sits on. And you can certainly take a look at that after today's webinar. For today's session, this is our yearly open house. And this is when we open our virtual doors to all of you so we can focus on learning more about caregiver experiences, as well as OCO's programs and how you can access what you need. My co-host today is Ron Bellino, who will be leading our caregiver panel discussion that you're going to hear from just in a moment. But now we have the pleasure of hearing from our CEO, Amy Coupal. Amy is the CEO of the Ontario Caregiver Organization and a visionary leader with 20 years of experience in the not-for-profit sector. Amy is passionate about mobilizing change through knowledge exchange and building collaborative initiatives that positively impact the lives of individuals and communities. The impact of this work is demonstrated through the breadth of direct-to-caregiver programs and services available through OCO, as well as the early successes of embedding caregiving into the culture of healthcare and the amplification of voices of caregivers to influence decision-making at a system level. Amy has a Master of Education from the University of Calgary and is an Adler-trained coach. Her insights have been shared through speaking and media engagements, both internationally and here in Canada. So welcome, Amy, over to you.
Thanks, Felicia, and really great to be here with all of you today. This is so exciting to be doing another open house at OCO and to have caregivers from across the province joining us. You know, we've really always embraced the spirit as an organization of nothing about us without us. And when I see caregivers joining us today and participating, I'm so excited about all of the caregiver voices that you'll hear from today and that we draw from to inform the development of the free programs and services that we deliver and the resources that we provide. And I hope that you'll find you also have the opportunity to make connections with the stories that you hear today and maybe with some of the information that you hear about and that you can relate to it and perhaps find something that you're interested in connecting with afterwards. If you're a healthcare provider, I'd also like to welcome you today. We really appreciate how important it is that we work together as partners in care. We have been so pleased with the response from healthcare providers to all of the work that we've been doing in the last several years, and we're grateful that you've joined us to really learn a little bit more about the organization. So whether you're a healthcare provider, a not-for-profit, a community organization, we welcome all of you. And I hope that everybody finds that our time together is really useful. You know, we launched our first program in 2019. That was our free helpline. And we certainly had no idea that the world would change as much as it has since then. But we've taken all of the learnings over the last 5 years, and that has evolved loved the work that we do. And now we have so many new programs and services. We have our essential care partner work, and we've really had the opportunity to highlight that caregivers are truly essential in our health and social systems, in our families, in our society. And so whether somebody's an inpatient or in hospital, an outpatient, a resident in long-term care, a congregate setting, or at home, we know that essential caregivers are everywhere, and we hope that you find that there are supports for you in what we talk about today. And we know that caregivers are providing the majority of care no matter where you are, and that we're the ones who hold the history, we bridge the gap, we really are the glue to the work that is happening to take care of somebody. And so I really honor each and every one of you who's here today and our speakers. I'll certainly be cheering for them as we go. So it's now my pleasure to welcome Ron, who is our caregiver host and a great friend of OCO and of mine. I'm so glad that you're here with us, Ron, to really talk about some of the stories and insights that will be shared today. And so we're really glad to have you back. I appreciate that Ron is an experienced family caregiver. He looked after his late father with Alzheimer's for over 10 years. He continues to provide support to family members and friends in need of care, and he's been a strong advocate in the areas of dementia, caregiving, aging, and in research. So with that, Ron, I will turn it over to you with thanks.
Greetings, everyone, and thanks, Amy, for the introduction there. Hello to all of you online, and it's such a pleasure to be back this year to co-host this event. I'm quite excited because we have two amazing caregivers that's joining us as well. I would like to ask these two caregivers to join me in the discussion, to come on screen. And we're going to be discussing Ontario Caregiver Organization programs and services. I might use the term OCO a few times just so it's a little bit shorter. So the OCO programs and services. So we have here today with us Christine Dunlop, also known as Chris, and Chris is a partner to David. 5 years ago, David suffered a severe brain injury from a rare benign brain tumor, which led Christine to become his primary caregiver. This role has required her to navigate a complex healthcare system while managing David's medical and daily living needs. Christine and David have 4 children, aged 22 to 30, and 2 grandchildren, ages 3 and 1, who are all young caregivers. Christine is increasingly overwhelmed by the escalating demands of caregiving as David's condition declines. Christine is an advocate, a speaker, and feels lucky to support caregivers who reach out for resources and support. So, hello there, Christine, or Chris there. We also have Cynthia. Cynthia Honeywell is a mother and caregiver to an inspiring son living with complex needs. Cynthia is also daughter and caregiver to her mom, who is turning 80 this year. Finance professional for a company in Eastern Ontario that manufactures robots, so I'm a fan of that, for neurological research. Completed her BA at the University of Ottawa and her Bachelor of Education at Queen's University. She's an advocate, speaker, and self-aspiring pivot professional, light bearer, and salt shaker. I don't think I asked you about the salt shaker piece, but I do like that. So it's a pleasure to get to know these two ladies, and we're going to ask them a few questions if these two are ready to go. So first question is going to Chris. Well, to both of them, but Chris will be responding first. If both of you can tell me what brought you to the OCO. So Chris, if you can share, how did you get to the OCO?
Thanks so much, Ron. Oh, I would describe it as despair. The overwhelming feeling of having no one and nowhere to turn. It was middle of the night. I'd been awake for nearly 100 nights in a row. I thought I had exhausted every resource and support option. Looking back, I realized I was still in shock. Like many of us, I was thrust into this caregiving life without warning or choice. And on top of that, COVID had just begun and the world was shutting down. So yeah, it was actually despair that brought me to OCO.
Okay, so thanks. I think a lot of caregivers relate right away from what you just said
Mm.
there about the struggle there. So, Cynthia, how about you? How did you get connected?
I mentioned in my bio that my son has complex needs. My son was identified since the age of 3.5 with an intellectual disability, emotional regulation of less than 5, um, other abilities depending. He also has autism, ADD, hyperactive, and he has general anxiety disorder presenting as more of anticipatory anxiety, but also some separation anxiety. And I was also, like Chris, brought to you in the middle of COVID. It was the second year, and I was experiencing severe burnout as a single parent, having my child at home and trying to maintain online schooling while also continuing a full-time job as manager of finance for a professional company here in Kingston, Ontario, that provides robots for neurological research. Like most people, like most of our caregivers here probably today, we just did it. We went into Groundhog Day, and it was, again, like Chris said, I allowed it to go too long before I started to realize I was in an extreme burnout. So that's what brought me to the OCO.
Thanks, Cynthia. The comment of we just did it, you just had to get through it. And a lot of people go through that pain and discover it themselves, right? Before they actually find an organization like OCO. And I think all three of us are advocating like, hey, can you get there sooner? Can you find out about OCO sooner? The connection piece of how people are introduced to the OCO or who shares that. Many times it's a caregiver telling another caregiver, right? And sometimes it's a challenge just to navigate, what's out there. I can say for sure that when I did some of my research for both of you ahead of time, I saw how much you're advocating, from reading some of your stories. Like Cynthia, you've been in the news already back then as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so applauding both of you for being those champions for the people in your life. And now you're trying to support other caregivers. So part of that is to also let other caregivers know what's out there. What does the OCO offer, for example? What are the programs and services? So that's what we're here for today as well. I'm going to start with you, Cynthia, and then go back to Chris as to what have you used with the OCO?
I accessed the one-to-one support over a period of weeks. And my first support person was Suzanne, and she was lovely. She had a very similar care situation that I was living as well. So we had that connection, and she could empathize with where I was at in that moment of absolute burnout. She had been there already. She knows what that feels like. She knows what it looks like. And the second person that I worked with was Brenda. And again, she was a lovely person to work with, also had a lot of empathy. And I call it hidden curriculum, where they understood already the situation you were in and how they might be able to help support you.
So when you say hidden curriculum, how would you describe that more? I have my
I,
thoughts.
I would describe that as telling your story. That's what we call it here, when I'm talking on other panels, is you didn't have to tell your story again. And every time we go to a new resource, we have to tell our story in order for people to kind of understand what we've been through. And it's so helpful when the people coming to you, they already understand empathically what you've been going through because they've lived it. They've walked that road. They've been down that road. And I cannot tell you how awesome that feels to be working with someone who's already been down that road and can help me get back up and back running again. So, yeah.
That on that piece, a lot of new caregivers don't realize the power of seeking out others who've already gone through it. I always say that caregiving is not new. There's been a dozen, hundreds, thousands of people that have gone through the same challenge. Connecting with them is, one of the challenges, and getting them to tell the story. But when you go to the OCO, there's a lot of great people there that already know these stories, right? And then they're going to really empathize really quickly. And that's that says a lot. So thank you. So thank you for that. Chris, how about you? What are you utilizing with the OCO?
Yeah, thanks. Echoing Cynthia with the hidden curriculum was probably the biggest part of the turning point for me with OCO. So that particular night at 3 a.m., I Googled something like, is there any help out there for me as a partner of a young, newly brain injured person? Like, to be honest, I don't think I wanted to believe that this was now our life. I certainly didn't have the capacity to believe my family was forever changed. I had only been in this for 5 months at the time, and I already had burnout and compassion fatigue. The first hit on that Google search was Ontario Caregiver. I'd never heard of it. And, I know a lot. I know from my work. Oh my goodness, I know a lot, and I'd never heard of Ontario Caregiver. Well, I clicked on it immediately. I quickly scanned the website. I filled out an information for contact form, and I was shocked that within hours, it was 3 a.m, so it was about 7 hours later. I was speaking with an actual live person who was empathetic, kind, compassionate, and I can still remember being stunned by this. This person was helping me register for one-to-one counseling with the SCALE program that started 2 days later. From that initial contact, I found myself diving into resources, joining support groups, attending webinars, and participating in focus groups. I felt like I belonged. Each step was not just about gaining knowledge. It was, now I see, it was about rebuilding trust in a world that I felt was just really unforgiving.
Okay. So thank you, Chris, for that. Yeah. The one piece that you just said there, which I didn't know what you're going to answer here today, is you're doing this in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah.
What was it, 3 a.m.? And so that's
3
lingered
a.m.
with, yeah, right. Cynthia, I'm sure you've gone on the OCO website after midnight, and caregiving is not 9 to 5, which we all know. So having access to just even the information, online, and then being able to talk one-on-one with someone or to have that voice, that's huge, that ability to have that. I think we got to work on the algorithms online so that any Google search, any chat GPT questions around caregiving, and if you're in Ontario, go straight to the OCO. So to the OCO team, we got to work on that to kind of see how we get you ranked all the time up there. So now I'm going to come back to a question that's you've answered a little bit, but let's keep talking about the services and the programs there. Can you share a little bit more? I'll let Chris, if you want to go for this one here, a little bit more about how it's, I know it's already benefited you and all that. You gave examples, but can you do a deeper dive into that? And think of it as you're sharing with caregivers. You're talking to another caregiver here. Now, what would you be telling them?
Yeah, I always talk about OCO meeting caregivers where they're at. I wonder what would have happened if OCO hadn't made it so easy for me to connect when I was desperately seeking at 3 a.m. And taking that initial leap of faith to trust OCO was a turning point for me. I now have a strong network within my own region because of that turning point. I'm from a small town, a rural area, Fergus, Ontario, and I really believe that the support of the one-to-one, the SCALE program, the webinars, and always being able to check in website or the 90-second caregiver now, which has now started but hadn't at the time, helped me to establish like an informal sort of underground in my own community, really seeing new caregivers, especially being a resource and a listener. And OCO is always at the top of my list because of the ease of it, because of OCO meeting caregivers where they're at. And that's really what we need. Less pressure, more connection.
Yeah.
It also led me, the work I did with OCO and still do with OCO led me to seek out my own local support group and ultimately connect with them, and they're still part of my life. They're essential to the health and well-being of me. So though despair brought me to OCO nearly 5 years ago, their guidance gave me more than information. It helped me rebuild my sense of self. And it's a very challenging and lonely reality in caregiving. So the more connection we have and the more belonging we have, the more healing and recovery and action we can take in this journey.
Chris, yeah, the connection, you've said that many times, the connection piece, and that's huge. Uh, One of the ones you shared, a local support group, is that correct? Is that a local, like, is that for caregivers as well?
Yeah, it's a local support because of my work with OCO and my feeling of belonging, and I was able to seek out people in my own community who then are now a part of my life. I'm not sure if I would have if it wasn't so easy for me to connect with
Okay.
OCO.
Okay. One piece just for the audience here as well is you're hearing from individual caregivers, Cynthia and Chris here, as well as myself. But this is also OCO also serves organizations or small groups, right? So I know some of Amy mentioned earlier, those in care that might be listening in. Okay, this is not just caregivers that will access OCO. This is also for nurses, personal support workers, you name it, an organization, a small group that's just formed on its own, let's say, right? So that's if you're listening and you think it's just for individuals, this is also for others who are not direct caregivers. It's those who support caregivers. So Cynthia, gonna look to you now. How about you? Like again, you're speaking to an audience here of other caregivers.
Yes,
What would you
yes.
be
And
sharing? Yeah.
as an advocate here in my area, I do sit on a few committees, and it is an honor to use time out of my day, which there isn't a lot, to do that, because I think that it takes me out of my bubble. It takes me out of my own perspective and places me into the perspective of other caregivers who need access to services. And I would say that just having celebrated Remembrance Day and our military personnel, having acknowledged our Indigenous peoples and how their outlying areas make sometimes it's very difficult to access services. OCO offers an online one-to-one service. And that way, everybody can access it no matter where you are. And I would say that when you have people, for example, in the military who have to move around constantly, they lose all their support net when they move from one province to another to serve their country. When they get to where they're going, OCO is still there. They haven't disconnected. They can still connect to OCO. The outlying Indigenous areas for us is a very high priority, especially here in Kingston, Ontario. We also are looking for new and improved ways of making it easier for everyone to be able to access care where they need it. And let's be honest, when we're looking at situations where you have someone you're caring for, you'll go to those organizations and you will see a lot of resources for the person that you're caring for. Like, for example, my son, he has supports for his ID, he has supports for the autism, he has supports for the ADD. And what we have as parents, they call respite. And that's about it right now. And I think that there is a huge educational piece that needs to be pushed through when addressing the needs and the health and welfare of a caregiver, because at the end of the day, we are the ones caring for these persons in our lives. And we want to not burn out so that we can continue to provide them with the best care we can. And that's in the best interest of everyone. So I would say, taking myself out of my bubble, that would be what I would say, is that OCO offers that versatility. there's, there's a word, versatility, for, me to access, and not just like this specific time, this specific place, but they will bend. They will bend and be like, you know what, I can call you at 4, I can call you at 9 in the morning. Don't worry about it. So yeah, I would say that would be my.
Cynthia, it's the messaging that I think many new caregivers, okay, don't realize is that the importance of the well-being of the caregiver. There's something that's always said in the caregiving space that caregiver is always forgotten, okay, and caregiving is not a one-person thing. There's the person being cared for, but then there's the caregiver. So it's actually a pair, at least two or more. And if that caregiver goes down, okay, that's actually a worse situation for everybody.
Yeah.
So, so thank you for sharing that. We have a little bit more time, just a little bit, and I'm going to go a little bit off script on my question. So you weren't ready for this question I was going to ask. Okay. So any one of you can go first. I like talking about emotions. Okay. That there's always these emotions that we get in life. Caregiving, there's a list of emotions when you're struggling. What would be the one or two emotional words you might use when you think about the OCO, the Ontario Caregiving Organization? What would that emotion be? And I know the OCO is saying that wasn't on our list to ask, but okay, here we go. This is the fun part for me.
I would say for me, it's not so much as emotion, but that feeling that you get when you can breathe in a deep breath of air again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that all caregivers have been there. We're breathing very shallow. We know we're burnt. And then someone steps in and like one of those fire things pushes the oxygen into our lungs again and the energy back into us to be able to keep going. I can't tell you the feeling of gratefulness that gives me when I am down on one knee and I am trying to get back up and someone comes alongside like a marathon and they start running next to me and saying, it's okay, we can do this. We can do this, keep going. That to me, there's no words to describe that feeling of hope. There it is. Hope.
Okay.
Hope.
Okay. Thank you, Cynthia. Yeah. I'm realizing, and people should realize, caregivers like to use a lot of analogies as time goes on, the marathon and all that. So thank you, Cynthia. And thank you. Yeah. Chris, how about you? Feelings and emotion that resonate with you?
It's a I can't quite think of the feeling right now, but the sense of relief and validation and belonging when it's been ripped from you and you're just spiraling.
Mm-hmm.
To have that validation and sense of belonging is it's integral to everyday living, every step, everything is so new all the time. So to know that that OCO is always there meeting you exactly where you're at is quite a validation.
So thank you, Chris, for that there. So those are my questions for you right now, and I know we're going to have maybe a few more later. So I just want to say thank you to both you, Cynthia, and Chris, for sharing and sharing with the audience here your experiences with the OCO. Now I'm going to pass it back to Felicia, who will share more details about the OCO's programs and services from the OCO staff. Amazing people over here.
Thank you so much, Ron, Cynthia, Chris. I honestly can't thank you enough for being here with us today, sharing what your experiences have been and what's really helped you, and also some work that we all still have to do together. And you've also really stimulated some great discussion and sharing in the chat from other caregivers and providers who are here today, who really, I know, appreciate hearing from you. I think this is so incredibly important. So again, a heartfelt thank you to all three of you. So as Ron noted, and as we've been hearing from Chris and Cynthia, we've heard a little bit about the programs that we have to offer and the resources at the Ontario Caregiver Organization. And as this is our open house, we did want to take a few minutes today to share more with you. So I'm going to just pull up some information on my screen to share with all of you today. Now, I know some of you may already know us, at least you found us for this webinar, but maybe some of this is still new to you. So we just want to take an opportunity to tell you a little bit more about what we have to offer for caregivers as we work alongside providers, community organizations, even employers across our province. And so at the Ontario Caregiver Organization, we're here to help improve the lives of all Ontario's caregivers. So all of those people like Cynthia and Chris, who are providing physical and emotional support to family members, partners, friends, neighbors, our chosen family. And so we're really here for you. And we have a number of free programs and services I'm about to tell you more about that are there to support you. So now this past year, so even since our last virtual open house, we actually made some major updates to our website. And I want to pull that up so we can actually walk you through in real time, because sometimes people get some really great ideas from these webinars, but then how do you find it? Where do you go from here? So I'm actually just going to go through the site with you so you can see those steps and how you can engage and get connected. So this is our website here. When you go to ontariocaregiver.ca, this is where you land. This is what you're going to see. So you'll notice that we have things like a caregiver quiz to help you figure out what would be helpful for me. What do I need right now? Sometimes even that is hard to determine as we all just do our best each day. We also have a virtual assistant. We have some information in the middle here of things that we really want you to know more about. And then down below, as we scroll, you're going to see the supports for caregivers tabs, the tools for caregivers. And honestly, there's something here for everyone. Even if you're not finding exactly what you're looking for, you can find that down below here. Also, some of the major highlights we have for you about upcoming webinars. And finally, we also have a spot where you can stay in touch with us. So even if you don't want to maybe register for something right now, or maybe you are in one of our programs, you can register for a newsletter, our 90-second email program that Cynthia noted, or sorry, that Chris noted, where you receive emails once a week about caregiving and important topics there. So the first thing I want to start with, though, is our helpline. That's available 24/7 by phone and available by chat Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And so you can learn more about the helpline by clicking here. It gives you an overview. Each time you go to a new page, we also have a little directory here on your right that tells you what's on this page, so you can toggle back and forth really easily. And so this is a confidential line. It is not a crisis service, but it is there 24/7 for caregivers. By phone, we have live answer French and English, but you can also ask for an interpreter in 150 different languages by phone. And then our online chat, as I noted, is available at some points during the week, and that's available French and English as well. So just to give you a little taste of how you can find that. And also, as Ron mentioned, we also support other providers and employers who are looking to better support caregivers that they know professionally or within their lives. And so there's a number of different resources and things that you can get to, right? So you can use this at the top of the webpage to find what you're looking for. But at this time, I would like to now ask my colleagues, Cleo Lanametz and Fiona Lacey, to come on, as they're going to help us learn more about some of our other programs and services as we continue to walk you through. So let's go on down here where I noted earlier, we have support for caregivers. And Fiona, sometimes caregivers tell us that they just need someone to talk to, similarly to what we heard from Cynthia and Chris. So someone who can really understand where they're coming from. And I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about peer support options and what caregivers can expect from these programs.
Thanks, Felicia. Hi, everyone. My name is Fiona Lacey. I'm the program lead for peer support and young caregivers here at OCO. When registering for any of our peer support programs, I'm the staff member who you would connect with directly. We offer peer support in two formats, one-to-one and through support groups. Peer support offers connection and an opportunity to gain emotional and social support from someone who also has caregiving experience. Both one-to-one peer support and support groups offer this community of caregivers, but you might have a personal preference in terms of whether you would prefer to connect over the phone with one person or connect through video with a group of caregivers with diverse experience. Healthcare providers can also refer caregivers to our peer support programs. So I'll start with our one-to-one peer support program. Through this program, caregivers are given the opportunity to connect with a volunteer peer mentor who has received training on hosting supportive conversations, active listening, and brings their own lived experience as a caregiver. Once you arrive on the one-to-one peer support page, you'll be guided to our 3 steps to join the program. First, you will click sign up to fill out our registration form. The information collected through this registration form will be used to contact you and share some context of your caregiving role with your volunteer peer mentor. I will then contact you directly to provide you access to our one-to-one peer support online portal, where you will be able to review all of the available profiles of our peer mentor volunteers who are waiting to connect with you. You may be able to connect with a peer mentor who has an experience with a similar condition or diagnosis you are caring for. It could be someone with the same relationship. So you could, meet with someone who's caregiving for a spouse, a parent, a child. Some caregivers might also select a peer mentor based on a common point of connection, such as navigating the healthcare system or, setting up personal boundaries. Once you select the volunteer peer mentor who you think would be a good fit for you, you can expect a phone call from them directly. I also provide support in selecting volunteer peer mentors so I can provide suggestions and make the connection on your behalf. Peer mentorships last for 6 months and occur through weekly phone calls with your volunteer peer mentor. We all have caregiver participants and mentors sign our OCO confidentiality pledge to make sure that there's privacy within your phone calls. Your peer mentor will be there for you as a cheerleader, a person to confide in, and someone to check in on you and your goals. And I'll share next about our online support groups. So you might prefer to connect with a group of fellow caregivers. To join one of our online caregiver support groups, you'll click Supports for Caregivers and then the online support group. From there on the screen, you'll see all of our support group offerings. We offer many different days and times. We also have a support group in French. We have a support group specifically for young caregivers aged 15 to 25. From there, you'll hit the next button to continue the registration form. Well, you will answer a few questions about your caregiving experience and select the group you wish to sign up for. After your registration is complete, I will reach out to you directly to connect you with the online caregiver support group. You'll receive an email reminder the day before the support group session that you've chosen to attend. And we hope you'll be able to attend, as many support groups as your schedule will allow. Once in the support group, you'll be hosted by our volunteer support group facilitators who bring a wealth of personal experience as caregivers. You'll be able to connect with other caregivers and share in the mutual understanding of the challenges and changes that are involved in being a caregiver. Our support groups are a wonderful opportunity to hear how others have handled various challenging elements of caregiving and provide mutual support. I'm going to share next about our supports for young caregivers. So we also offer a special resource center for young caregivers aged 15 to 25. We understand that there's unique challenges that come from being a caregiver at a young age. Through the Young Caregivers Connect website, you can connect directly with other caregivers through our discussion forum. You can read the personal stories of other young caregivers and get tips and ideas to support you on your caregiving role. All the content on the Young Caregivers Connect website has been written and developed by young caregivers themselves. You can register through the website for a young caregiver specific online support group. You can connect through to the one-to-one peer support programs, get connected with a peer mentor with young caregiving experience. Meeting with other young caregivers provides an opportunity to ask questions, share your story, and feel that you are in a safe place among your peers. As we've heard today, there's so much value in connecting with someone who understands the unique role of being a caregiver. So we hope you will consider joining one of our peer support programs, and feel free to reach out to me with questions anytime.
Fiona, thank you so much. That was incredibly helpful just to walk people through what that process looks like and how to find that information. And if anyone or if you yourself are having trouble with these online pieces or getting registered, that's where our helpline can come in and our staff to support you in doing that. Sometimes we do this over the phone with people as well. So I just wanted to note that we do think about accessibility in a lot of different ways there. Now, Cleo, we've heard from caregivers all across the province that they are concerned about their own health and well-being and are not always sure where to turn. So, what are some of the other OCO programs that you would suggest that they consider? And can you let people know what you do at OCO?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Felicia. So as Felicia mentioned, I'm a manager of our caregiver programs, and I will be talking about more of our mental health programming today. But similar to Fiona, how you would connect with me is either mainly through needing support registering for a program like Scale, or perhaps the biggest one would be through our caregiver coaching program, where I facilitate, actually along with Felicia, a lot of our caregiver coaching intakes, which I'll get to in a bit. But yeah, let's start with our Scale program. We'll go through the overview. And as Felicia said, this is our brand new website. So the Scale program was mentioned by Cynthia and both Chris, and it is such a great program for caregivers because it's almost like a one-stop shop for mental health support. So how the program works is there's a few components. One, we offer weekly psychoeducational webinars with a trained mental health professional. So we partner with a psychotherapist who really unpacks difficult caregiving emotions. So emotions like anxiety, anger, feelings of helplessness. And although these are really challenging topics, caregivers really appreciate the authenticity of it and being able to come to a safe space to share those emotions while also receiving practical tools and suggestions on ways to cope or better manage those emotions in their journey. So often we have caregivers coming feeling like there's a sense of community, they don't feel alone, and there's an opportunity to ask questions with a trained mental health professional. And with the Scale program, you also get counseling, which I'll get into, but Felicia has narrowed in on our topics. So these are some of the challenging caregiving emotions that our mental health professional will discuss. So we're actually on week 7 as of next Tuesday. So I feel like nobody appreciates me setting boundaries. This is something that comes up quite often as we talk to caregivers, is trying to figure out ways to set compassionate boundaries, as we often like to call them. And Scale happens twice a year. So it usually runs in the fall, which is now. I'm sure a link will be sent out through the chat or in the post-webinar email. And you can sign up anytime. So it's not a closed program. So if you discover this today, sign up. So if you register here, that will open Eventbrite. And if you scroll down and you click Get Tickets, you'll see what it looks like, where you can select the webinar that you want to attend. So you don't even have to attend all of them. I mean, you can, you're welcome to. We always suggest to, because we provide the recording as well after if you register. So that's the beauty of the program too. There's flexibility. If you can't attend live, then you can get the recording after as well. And we provide handouts with key activities for that week. So for example, setting boundaries, you'll get a resource on the key takeaways, some key activities and resources as well suggested. So if we go back to the overview, I just want to go over the counseling. If you can scroll up, Felicia, there should be a button for counseling. There we go. Free online group or individual counseling. So to receive counseling within the Scale program, you would just have to simply register what Felicia showed you through Eventbrite, and then we send you a separate link through there. But the counseling is really meant to be short-term solution-focused therapy. So caregivers can either receive free group counseling, so they can meet weekly in a group during the Scale program each week, or they can do one-to-one counseling with a trained mental health professional, so either a psychotherapist or a registered social worker. And if you do the one-to-one counseling, you would receive up to three counseling sessions as well. This is limited based on first come, first serve. So we always encourage caregivers to register as early as possible, but there's always group counseling available if one-to-one is not. And we encourage caregivers to put themselves on the wait list, because what happens is often if you're not seen in the fall, we will prioritize you for the winter launch as well. But yeah, it's a great program, as Cynthia and Chris mentioned. If you're looking for that mental health support and, even connecting with other caregivers who are feeling that way. And I always reiterate it is free. All our programs and services are free. So if you're looking for counseling or an opportunity that way to work with a mental health professional, it's a great way to support as well. So now we'll go through our caregiver coaching program, which I believe Cynthia highlighted with one of our caregiver coaches, Brenda. So our caregiver coaching program really gives caregivers the opportunities to work one-on-one with a professional caregiver coach. So this is someone who also has lived experience as a caregiver. And that's something that we take pride in at OCO is a lot of our professionals come to us with that lived experience because they understand what is happening. So you really get the best of both worlds. With the program, if you scroll up, Felicia, it's really supporting caregivers in terms of practical solutions. So you get up to 6 sessions, and often caregivers come to us because they're burnt out. They really need help in terms of complex situations like transitioning their care recipient into long-term care, for example, or there's some fears around future care planning. Developing communication skills is another big one, either with providers in the system or with family members, because sometimes those challenging dynamics do present themselves. And the caregiver or the coach can work with you one-on-one to develop a plan to make your experience more sustainable or to help kind of get you on the path that you want to get to. So usually the relationship lasts about 3 months, but it's a great way if you're looking to kind of make that change. And then, sorry, Felicia, as you were scrolling down to how you can get into the program, similarly to our peer support, you can refer yourself into the program. It's through a survey link, and it will take you to SurveyMonkey, and it will just ask you some questions about your caregiving situations. People in organizations or providers can also self-refer the caregiver. That's not a problem as well. We do ask some readiness to participate questions because a key difference often with coaching and peer support is going and taking away something to apply within your caregiving role and then coming back to reassess, what can be done to kind of keep improving the challenge that you're working on. But yeah, and that's when you'll probably connect with me or Felicia, usually within 3 to 5 business days, but we're a bit quicker than that generally. And we'll do an intake over the phone. So yeah, I'm just being mindful of time, but I think, yeah, it's a great opportunity to connect with these mental health programming. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out.
Cleo, thank you so much for walking us through those 2 program areas. I'm sure many caregivers, if they haven't already tried it, will probably want to after today's session, after hearing you walk through that. And an important thing to note as well is that we do have these programs and services and resources all available in French. So you would have noticed as I was going through our website at the top right, you can toggle over very easily to the French version of our website as well. So, wow, we got through a lot today. We had such a fabulous caregiver panel led by Ron. You've heard from some of our team members at the Ontario Caregiver Organization, but I do want to make sure that we get to some of your questions that you have for us. Now, our team has been monitoring the chat, and so I'm just going to take a look here. It seems like for the most part, our questions were answered throughout the session that you had. But I also saw some really rich discussion and sharing from all of you. I want to thank you for that, for sharing your experiences being a caregiver. And one thing that I would like to leave you with as we have this discussion time is there something here today that you didn't know about before? Something that you'd be willing to try out? Maybe it was something that's really resonating for you as you heard from Chris and Cynthia, or a program you want to try, something you're really needing right now. You can feel free to share feedback and comments in the chat on that, or even just take it away for yourself. But I'm going to give you a moment to see what people are saying. I see here some comments around exploring caregiver training and perhaps some of the e-learning that we have available for free for caregivers. And another member of audience saying that they didn't know about these services at all. And we're so grateful that you're here today and you've been able to get in touch with us and learn more. Scale program, peer support, the coaching option was really resonating with people. And one really great question here from one of our audience members, where would you recommend we start? Absolutely. When you hear all this wealth of what's available, it can be hard to say, okay, what's the first step for me? Now, I noted when I was going through the website when I first landed on there that we do have a caregiver quiz. So one thing I would suggest, if you've got a couple of minutes one day, you might want to try the quiz to see what might be a good first step for you. You can also reach out to our 24/7 helpline and say, I know about these programs, I just don't know where to start. Or even sending us a note through info at, that's another option as well. Use our chat service, even the AI tool that we have. I've used that myself just to kind of find some ideas for other resources in my caregiving. So that's some ideas that I have for you, or even just sitting down thinking about, okay, how am I doing right now? What are some things that are really feeling like a gap area for me within my day-to-day life, within my caregiving role? And that will help to identify some really clear needs for you right now. And so maybe it's a chance to, like with peer support, being able to talk things out with another caregiver who's been through something similar. Or maybe it's time to take everything you know what needs to be done and organize it and create some sort of an action plan, a progress plan, if you will. And so maybe coaching would be a good time for you right now, good timing for you to enter into coaching. So, or even perusing some of our resources that we have available in the toolkit. So I know there's a lot there, but those are just some questions you can start to ask yourself and perhaps utilize the caregiver quiz to narrow down a starting point. I'm seeing some comments too for some people who have been taking part in the Scale program that they've been enjoying. So that's wonderful. And also others just saying like the Caregiver Coaching program was something they never heard of before. We have people who are caregivers for a very long time and others who have tried some of our services and have found it useful. So I'm so happy to hear that. And what my hope is that you continue to access the resources and supports that you need. We continue to be here for you, even as things are in transition and really change within your caregiving role. So I do want to thank everyone for joining us today. And at this time, as we wrap up, I would like to ask our CEO, Amy, to join us again for some closing remarks. Amy.
Thanks so much, Felicia, and thanks everybody for joining us today. So incredible to see the information in the chat, the questions that you've posed and the comments that you made. I really appreciate everybody's engagement with us on this today. It's been an amazing hour together. I know we could spend several more, but I'm really glad that you chose to spend this time with us. I want to say a particular thank you to Cynthia and Chris for sharing your insights, your stories. I was so moved by what you had to say, and I think you've given us all some things to think about the importance of connection and the importance of really getting that support that you need to give you hope and that energy that you need to keep going in your caregiving journey. So thank you for inspiring others with what you said today. I want to thank all of our system partners who joined us today, healthcare providers, not-for-profit, community organizations. We love working in collaboration with you. So if you're interested in talking with us about other ways that we can help spread the word about OCO or do things together, please do reach out to us. And you've heard from several of our staff members front of camera today, but we also have some team members who are behind the scenes making this all happen. So I want to say thank you very, very much to everybody on the OCO team for everything you did to make this a success today. And of course, thank you to Ron. We appreciate you moderating our conversation, guiding the discussion in different directions, including some surprises, which is always fun. And so we really look forward to reconnecting with all of you through our programs and services and dialogue, and wishing everyone an absolutely wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much.